So welcome back everyone, I hope you've been practicing your drawing. My name is Will and I'm here to teach you that absolutely everybody can draw. So my job description is a simple one really, isn't it? I'm an artist. But what actually is an artist? An artist is anyone that consistently practices their craft in order to get better. That includes singers, painters, musicians, footballers, programmers. Remember, the key lesson here is that it's a skill, not a talent. And what that means is the more you draw, the better you get. If you find something difficult to draw, then practice, practice, practice. So let's talk about scale, basically the size of the objects that we draw. And one of the cool things we can do as artists is we can draw things to any scale. They can be huge or they can be tiny, but we need to be able to show that in what we're drawing. A good example of this is if we put a really large animal besides Fia and Tig, then we need to show it in proportion to them. So if you remember yesterday, we found out that Tig really likes dinosaurs and they can go to whatever time that they want. So let's put them with a dinosaur. And if I was to draw one, what size should it be? Does that look right to you? No, it's definitely wrong. We need this dinosaur to be way bigger than both Fia and Tig, and that's what we're going to do. So, Fia and Tig should be a lot smaller, and the dinosaur can be bigger. Now, how much cooler does he look? You think that dinosaur is hard to draw? I don't think so. What do? We'll find the simple shapes, we'll break it down into those, and then we'll add the smaller little cool details onto that first. Let's get rid of Fia and Tig. Let's move our dinosaur over a little bit, and let's find the shapes that he comprises of. So we've used squares, circles, triangles, semicircles, and squircles, which is halfway between a square and a circle. And we're going to add in a teardrop. Basically, it's a circle that gets thinner towards the top. The first shape that I can see is a massive teardrop. So let's draw that. Then his head, well, that looks like a squircle to me. And let's connect the teardrop to the squircle with some semicircles, okay? Now his little tiny arms, like a T-Rex, are teardrops as well. It's missing the top of them. So let's draw some upside down teardrops here first. And another one over here. Then little rectangles onto them. For the legs, let's draw two semicircles and connect them at the bottom. Same on the other side. Now, it looks like his jaw is coming out a little bit further than his beak. So, let's extend a line like that for his jaw and bring that out there. And his eyes are exactly the same as Fia and Tig's. So we start with an oval. We draw a circle in it for the iris, except this time his pupil is a slit. Now let's bring in another cool tip, and let's cut the eye in half with a semicircle and erase the bottom half of it. And that can make our dinosaur look a little sinister. Now another semicircle on top of the eye and an oval for the nose. And already we have the basic shape of the dinosaur. It's just the little details that need to be added in here. So because I designed the dinosaur, I could do whatever I want with him, and I gave him some feathers because dinosaurs, believe it or not, are birds. And these feathers are basically loads of little triangles coming off the top of his head. Now, what's missing? His teeth? More triangles. His toes? More triangles. And last but not least, we need the tail. And the tail is going to be a bunch of semicircles put together. So let's do one semicircle here. Another one like this for the other side of the tail. Then two semicircles like this that join together. Then we just have some triangles for the end of the tail. Now the pro tip, Lightly erase everything that we've drawn with your eraser, leaving just enough for you to be able to draw over it again. Because if you remember, I always draw stuff twice, because 1, it's good for practice, but 2, I'll be able to use the lines that I already did to draw this. So I'm going to speed this up, but you can draw it in your own time. There's a dinosaur. If you found this a little difficult, I'll have some worksheets up on rte.ie/learn where I'll break this down into even more steps so you'll be able to practice it. Just remember, with drawing, we can draw huge objects and really small objects as long as you draw them relative to each other on the page. And when you're figuring out how to draw something, break it down into simple shapes and practice, practice, practice.
We are going to have so much fun because we will be making our very own stamps. So let's get started. Now, remember, if you don't have everything I'm using at home, you can just problem solve and use something else. So first thing you're going to need is some cardboard. Now, if you don't have cardboard, you could use a cereal box or any kind of stiff or milk carton would probably do the same job. So to make it a functioning stamp, so I have some cardboard here, we need to make a handle out of the cardboard so that we can hold our stamp down and pull it off without getting our fingers in the paint. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut myself a square for my actual stamp. There we go. And I have a rectangle as the handle of my stamp. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bend it in half. Oopsie daisy. And I'm going to fold it. And then I'm going to fold one side out. And I'm going to fold the other side out as well. So this means, we'll see now. So this means that we have a kind of like a little clip nearly made that we can hold. And I'm going to stick this down on the cardboard so that way I can pick it up and put it down without getting my fingers around the edges, okay? So you can use some PVA, you can use a stick of glue, and if you have a glue gun at home, fantastic. If you don't, you can even make your own glue using a little bit of flour and water in the microwave, okay? So for the purposes of this, I'm going to use some Pritt stick because it glues quite quickly, or it sticks and dries quite quickly. Now, so. Fantastic. Now, I'm going to stick that down. And then ideally, you're going to leave it until it is dry. But it should actually dry pretty quickly. And look, I can hold this without getting my hands dirty. So it's great because I can pick it up, I can put it down, and then I can use it like a stamp and then pick it up once again without having to pull from one corner and getting paint on the other side and everything. It's just a nice little quick way of making it easier to use. Okay? Now, for our first type of stamp, we are going to make a pattern using some string. Now you need a thick sort of yarn or twine or something like that, or actually wool would do the same job. Thread probably won't be seen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my stamp over. I have it here ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some designs. So I'm going to start off by making a very simple spiral. Okay, so I'm just going to, oopsie daisy, I'm going to take my stick of glue and I'm going to make a spiral like that. Go over it again to make sure that it sticks. Now, you can make as intricate a design as you like, but I'm just showing you how we can get started with a simple one. And you see, I'm sticking it on the glue as we go around and around. So you could actually even do a little snail if you wanted to, which would be a lovely idea, like a little shell. But to start, I'm just going to do a spiral. Now, fantastic. Just add a little bit more glue here. Very good. And then you will leave it to dry. So I've left the one that I just glued to dry, and you would have to leave it for a little bit because we want it to be completely dry so that when we use the paint, it doesn't come off. So here's one that I made earlier, okay? So I've got my little spiral here, so let's try it out with some paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try some blue maybe. Oopsie daisy. And I'm going to take a paintbrush now, because I'm not normally, if you're doing stamps, what you would do is you would roll it out and then stick it, but I'm actually just going to paint using a paintbrush so we're not soaking the cardboard too much. So here I go. Now I'm putting a nice amount on because I know that the string is very thirsty, so it's probably going to suck up most of my paint. And now I am going to use it. Now, I don't want to press down the sides of it too much because I don't want the sides to get any paint to them. So let's see if it works. Okay. And I'm just going to lightly press all around it and lift it up. And there we go. We've made a stamp, and there should be enough left for another one, and so on and so forth. So you can make lovely little spirals all over your page. Okay. So let's say I'm going to go with the theme of the sea. So these kind of could nearly be like waves. So I'm going to leave my string stamp to one side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make another kind of stamp. So I need some more cardboard. I'm going to cut a little square out of it, like that. I'm going to glue my handle. So remember, I fold it over like I did with the first stamp. The base of our stamp is the same, so we're repeating the process again. Now, and I'm gluing them like that, and I'm sticking it onto the back of my stamp so that I have a little handle to hold, okay? Now, for this type of stamp, what we're actually going to do is we are going to use matchsticks. But if you don't have matchsticks at home, you can use little sticks, even if you find something outside, and you could just smooth them down, or you could use some toothpicks. Now, so what I'm going to do is I would like to make a star, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw myself out my design. So I've got a star there ready to go. So the sides of each of my star, that's a little bit long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just glue the pattern like I did the very first time. And I'm going to stick it on there. Actually, I need to make it shorter again. So I'm cutting it. Remember, if you're cutting, to be very, very careful with your fingers. Now, let's see how long. So you're going to be doing a bit of measuring actually as well. Oopsie daisy, that one flew away. I'll stick that one down there like that. And remember, you can do any kind of design that you like with this. I remember I've done this with lots of classes. We sometimes make them around Christmas, or if somebody's birthday is coming up, you could make a special design for them. Or if you wanted to kind of nearly design your own type of wallpaper or a little picture to put up, you can do one after the other. And remember, if you wanted to, you could do your stamp using one color paint and then go over it, but slightly beside it in lots of different colors. And it looks really kind of, it looks very magical looking. So. You could even do a name if you wanted to, but remember you'd have to write it in mirror writing, so backwards, because when you stamped it down, it would come back to front. So there I go, I have my star ready. Stick my handle back on. Okay, and I'm going to leave that one to dry as well. So remember, you need to leave them a good amount of time to dry. Okay, So here is my star stamp that I made earlier, which is dry and ready to go. So let's see how well my matchstick stamp works. Okay, I think I'm going to choose yellow for the star in keeping with the traditional, but remember you can make them whatever color you like. So here I'm going to go and I'm going to just paint on. Now, there we go. I want to use enough but not too much that it's blobs or anything like that. So let's see if it works. Okay, I'm going to and there we go. So you can see that it's actually making more of a stamp shape. So there's stars all over it. Okay, now what you could do out of this, if you wanted to, you could make nice cards like I was saying. Or what could be really cool is if you kind of try to see, can you design your own wallpaper? So you could do 2 or 3 or 4 even different types of stamps and have them going down in rows. So let's see what I can do here. Now, so remember I'm using my blue and I'm imagining that I'm doing kind of a wallpaper for a bathroom or somewhere nice by the sea or something like that, okay? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to add a bit more. Now I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to leave a space in between. Okay, great. Let's try my stamp with my star on it. Just going to stamp that down into the paint itself to make sure it picks up enough and it doesn't let my poor wallpaper down. So I'm going to do them lightly. Hup, hup, hup. So I've done my basic wallpaper and now I'm actually going to add in a little bit more and I'm going to just see if I can't fill it up a little bit more. So I'm going to go with my spiral first and I'm going to go, you can see I'm kind of doing a sequence or a pattern. So here we go. Up, 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 and then up. Okay, so remember the pattern continues long after we've finished with it, so you have to make sure that you're still adding to it. And I'm going to do the same now with my stars. Okay, let's see how this goes. Okay, up, 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 up. I need to add a little bit more paint. And up, 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 up. Now, so that's looking pretty cool. Add a little bit more up there because it's still continuing long after we finished it. Well done. You have learned how to make 2 types of stamps. So make some cards using your stamps and send them to your friends and to your family and let them know that you're thinking of them.
Boys and girls, today we're going to do an art lesson. But before we start, I need to give you a bit of background information. Question for you. Have you ever heard of a group of people called the Native Americans? Maybe you've seen them being portrayed in films. Or you might have heard of some famous Native Americans, like Geronimo. Or perhaps you've heard of Thanksgiving, about how the Pilgrims feasted with the natives at a place called Cape Cod. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Thanksgiving right now. In the year 1620, a group of English people sailed to America on a ship called the Mayflower. They landed in a place called Cape Cod in November 1620. And those people became known as Pilgrims. Now, they didn't know how to hunt animals or grow crops. This was a strange land and they'd never been here before. So, these people called the Native Americans helped the Pilgrims grow crops and hunt animals. You see, the Native Americans had arrived in America thousands of years before the Pilgrims. They were very skillful hunters, really good fishers and farmers. So the Pilgrims had a great big feast at the end of their first year in America. They celebrated a very successful first year in their new home. So they invited the Native Americans to feast with them, to say thank you for all the help that they'd received. And that was the first Thanksgiving. Now, I'm going to teach you a new word. The word is indigenous. So what does indigenous mean? Well, indigenous means native or original. The term indigenous peoples refers to people that were originally living in a place. So a few examples of indigenous people in the United States would be the Cherokee, the Apache, and the Navajo Native American tribes. The Native American culture is steeped in tradition, and they've loads of interesting customs. Now, one of them is the dream catcher. Dream catchers are very, very popular indigenous symbols. And they're really, really popular even in non-indigenous culture. But where exactly do they come from? Well, there was a group of Native Americans called the Ojibwe. And they were an indigenous people who lived in the United States and Canada. And they originally created dream catchers. As legend goes, in Ojibwe culture, spiders are viewed as protectors. They're good. And as legend goes, there was a spider woman who protected children while they slept by spinning a web above their heads. So the web that the spider woman would weave would catch bad dreams and not let them enter the heads of the children who were sleeping below. Then the sun would come out at dawn, and when the sun shone on the bad dreams, they would disappear. Now, before the Ojibwe people spread out in North America, the spider woman would weave webs by the beds of all the children to capture the bad dreams until the rays of sun got rid of them. But as the Ojibwe people spread out more and more, spider woman couldn't reach every child. So mothers and grandmothers began to make dream catchers instead. And the dream catcher is then usually placed above a bed. So what do they symbolize? Well, they can actually symbolize a lot of things. The hoop symbolizes strength and unity because its circular shape has no beginning and no end. It's a cycle. Many dream catchers connect the string to the hoop at 8 points to symbolize the legs of the spider woman. The feathers here, well, they represent breath and air. And they're also helpful for entertaining babies, who dream catchers were initially made for. They're usually placed above the bed, keeping you safe from bad dreams. Now, a lot of people have bad dreams. Even grown-ups have nightmares. Maybe you have bad dreams. But it's important to remember that they are only dreams. They're not real. And if it makes you feel better, why not hang a dream catcher up? Today we're actually going to make our own dream catchers. So if you've got bad dreams, or if you just like the idea of them, why not stick it up above your bed? Here's what you're going to need. We're going to need a paper plate, some wool, some beads or decorations. They don't have to be beads, but they can be anything you can find in your house. Some more decorations in the form of little feathers, which I have here. Some scissors. And remember, if you're not allowed to use the scissors in your own house, get a grown-up to help you. They're really good at cutting. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a paper plate and we're going to take our scissors. The idea is that we're going to cut out the middle of our paper plate. Now, you can do this by drawing a circle with a pencil, or you can just see where to cut out on the plate itself. I'm not going to bother using a pencil. I'm just going to try and cut it. So the best way to do this is to fold your paper plate in half, lightly. Make a little cut with your scissors. And then when you open it up, you can stick your scissors through and cut out to the edge. After you've done that, you can start cutting out the circle. Now it doesn't have to be a perfect circle in the middle, like mine. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to get your wool. We're going to tie the wool around the plate lightly, because if we pull it too tight, the paper plate could actually rip. And now you're going to take the wool and put it all the way around your plate. And eventually, it will start to look like this. Now, what I've done here, just to show you the halfway mark, is I've cut the wool, I've tied it in a knot, so you can see what we're trying to achieve here. Now, I've always wanted to say this on TV, but here's one I made earlier. So now we have a full circular shape that's covered with wool. And the thing is, because we didn't pull the wool too tight, you can separate it and you can still see parts of the paper plate underneath. That's kind of important, and I'll show you why. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a scissors or a pencil. I'm actually going to use a pencil because it should be able to do the job and it's a little bit less dangerous. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread the wool a little bit and I'm going to put in a hole. Now, it's really important to do this gently because the last thing we want is for you to rip the paper plate. So we're going to put a hole there and we're going to put a hole at the bottom. If you can imagine a clock, you're going to put one at the number 12 and the number 6. And you're going to put one on the number 3. And the number 9. And again, these don't have to be exactly right. It's just that you need a few random holes around the edge. Just like this. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our ribbon. And we're going to just cut some strips. Now make sure the strips are long enough to go from one end of the dream catcher to the other. Let's start with those and see how we get on. Okay, so we're just going to put the ribbon through the holes that we've just made. And then down to the other hole down here. Now, the next one that I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put a little bit of a decoration on it. So as I'm threading it through the hoop of my dream catcher, I'm actually going to put a bead onto it. So the ribbon goes through. Pull it through. Now I'm going to add on some beads. And again, if you don't have beads in your house, you can use anything. As long as the ribbon will go through it, you can stick anything to your dream catcher. Now, that is really starting to take shape. Now, if you don't have ribbon at home, you can use string. In fact, string is very like a spider web, so it might even work better. But we're not finished yet. We need to add on our feathers on our strings and our beads. So let's do that now. Going to need your wool, and I've cut off my 3 strings here. So now we've got our 3 strings, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach feathers and beads. I'm thinking 3 or 4 beads here would be perfect. A knot in the last bead, around the last bead, so the rest won't fall off. And now if you have feathers, you can glue them on to your bead. I'm going to glue this nice white feather down at the bottom. Go there. Just let that dry, and while that glue is drying, I'm going to start beading the rest of these strings. And if you want, you can cut off any extra wool at the bottom of your strings. So there we have it. We have our full circle, which is a symbol of unity, and a cycle. We have our beads for decoration. We have our ribbon going across to represent the web of the Spider Woman, which catches the bad dreams. And then when the sun comes out, it makes the bad dreams disappear. We've left enough space that the good dreams can get through. And then down here, we have our feathers and our decoration. I've got a great idea. Why don't you give it a go? Now, I decorated mine like this, but you can do it whatever way you want.
Let's have a little bit of fun today. Over the last little while, you've been drawing what I've been telling you to do. How about this time I take some of your characters and draw them? Sound like fun? Yeah, I thought so. Let's do it.
Hey, my name is Sarah, and I love to draw. I've been following We Will Draw from the start, and I love working on my art. I like to create a sketch first before I do it digitally. It normally helps me get an idea of what I want. Sometimes I spend hours on my art trying to get it to be perfect. This is Neve. She loves art and animals, and she is deaf. Let me sign her name for you. N-I-A-N-H. My story, Neve and Tiger, brother and sister, like me, Sarah, and Daniel, my brother Daniel. Bye!
All right, let's see if I can do this. We will draw. Am I learning something new? I think I am, for sure. Okay, now it's my turn to draw the amazing character that's Neve, and I want to see more of your drawings and draw more of them in the future too. So here we go. So on rte.ie/learn, you're going to be able to find these drawings of Fia and Tig and this base drawing that I'm about to draw, which you can draw over to design your character. Or if you're feeling up for the challenge, try draw it yourself. Remember, these are your characters, so they can be whatever size and shape that you want. So don't be afraid to give them massive ears or tiny little eyes, or it's your decision. It's totally up to you, and that's what's cool about creating characters. So this is Sarah's character, Niamh, and I'm going to draw her. And like always, I'm going to find the simple shapes in the costumes that Sarah has designed to draw my own version of it. So her hair has got loads of little triangles for the fringe here. And now Niamh has a cochlear implant, which goes up here. So it's just 2 cylinders like that on the side of the head. And she's got a bow in her hair, which we can make by connecting semicircles. So her smile is kind of a wavy smile like this, which is awesome. So Niamh is an artist and she's got a paintbrush in her belt. So we'll draw in the paintbrush with 2 semicircles for the handle of the paintbrush and then some more little semicircles for the tip of the brush. And the pouch is just 2 rectangles with a triangle for the top of the pouch. Big thick laces here, which is a crisscross pattern all the ways down, and the same on this side. Okay, so like always, what am I going to do? I'm going to lightly erase everything that I've drawn. And I'm going to draw over it again. This time, as well as drawing it, I'm going to color it. And I'm going to go super fast because I don't have a lot of time to show you. And I want to do a cool finished drawing of Niamh. Okay? So there you go. Niamh is now with Fia and Tig. And you know what? I actually think I prefer Sarah's version of the drawing. It's really, really cool. This week has been amazing. We did so much stuff. We did a full new scene and told a whole bunch extra with the story. We created a new character. We learned how to draw some ancient Irish landscape and even do some ancient Irish writing. And we created a new character with Sarah called Niamh. So thank you everyone for sending in your drawings. Keep sending them in to rte.ie/learn. Keep on practicing and keep on drawing.
Today in SPHE, that's Social Personal Health Education, we are going to be looking at the idea of gratitude. But what is gratitude? Well, it's the noun form of the adjective, which is grateful. And grateful is a synonym, or another way of saying thankful. The way we're talking about gratitude is how we say thank you for all that we have, no matter how big or small. We're all in a strange situation at the moment with the coronavirus. The most important thing is that we don't sit and think about all the things we can't do while we're in lockdown, staying in our houses and looking out for each other, but that we're thankful for everything we can do and everything that we have. So how can we remind ourselves of how lucky each and every one of us is? Well, we can journal or talk about it, and some of you might be keeping homeschool diaries or something like that, or we can chat about it with others. But what I'm going to show you today is how to make ourselves a gratitude box. Okay? Let's go. Now, you can take a ready-made box like a shoe box or a kind of chocolate box or something like that, but I'm going to show you how to make one from scratch using a cereal box. Okay, so here is my cereal box and I'm going to open it out. Okay, so here I'm going to cut along the seams, and remember, if you're using a scissors, to ask for adults' help or to make sure that there's someone nearby, just to make sure in case you need any help. Now, and I'm just going to cut along the seams here. Now, there we are. And I'm just going to open it up like that. So I'm turning it into the net of a cereal box, okay? Now, what we need to do is make the net of a cuboid. Okay, so we are going to sketch it out. Okay, so how many sides has a cuboid? How many faces has a cuboid? It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have 4 rectangular faces and 2 square faces at each end. Okay, so let's do our rectangular faces first. Okay. Now, we need to make sure that all our measurements are going to be the same, so I'm going to just see how we get on. Now, and so we need 4 rectangular faces. Now, here we go. Okay. Now, the next thing I need to do is to split them into a half. Okay, so let's see. 0 to about 26 centimeters. So this is my halfway point. So I need to make sure that all the rectangular faces are the same length and width. Now, so there we have it. There are our 4 rectangular faces. Okay, so I'm going to then take the length of one side, so 6.5. So if I need to do a square at the end of each of these, it needs to be 6.5 the whole way round, because a square has, every side is the same length. So 6.5, that's probably a bit much, so I'll just make a mark there, and I'll make a mark there. Now, I'll just try to do that. There we go. And then finally, another one at the same. Let's see. Oopsie daisy. There we go. And 6.5 to there. Okay. Now, you can make your cuboid as big, as wide as you want, but we're just going to do it this way for now. Okay. So, what I'm going to do next is I am going to add in some extra flaps, okay? And I'm going to do that. It doesn't really matter how you do it, but I just want to have a little bit of extra, so if I need to stick them together, that I have seams to do. Now, you can use even tape or something, sticky tape if you like, but I'm just going to do it like this so that I have the option of doing that. So you need to add in extra little surrounding area the whole way around. Now, Here we are. It's simple as that. Doesn't have to be neat for now. I'm just doing a rough job on it. Now, so I have the 4 faces of my cuboid, and then, so I have 4 of the rectangular faces, and then I have a square face at either end, and I've added on extra space around each of them so that I can use those little flaps to fold them and to stick it all together properly. Okay, so now it's time for us to get cutting. So off we go. The net of my cuboid, which I am ready now to stick together. And what I'm actually going to use to stick it together is tape for now. Now you can use glue, but I don't have the time to wait to let it dry, so I'm just going to use some tape. So the first thing I need to do though is I need to fold my cuboid into shape, because otherwise it's going to be too stiff. So I'm going to start with all the little flaps that I've drawn, okay? So I'm just bending each of them. I'll start with those. Now, that's all the flaps around one square. I'm going to do upsy daisy. You just have to watch and just bend and press them like that. There we go. There's another one, and another one, and another one. And that was fine because those seams are already there. And then I'm just trying to bend these back on the lines that I've drawn. And then I'll do the same on this square. And then I can actually get into the actual squares and rectangles myself. Now, very good. And that's all our seams done there. Now, this is what we have. We have the net of a cuboid. And there's one flap that I forgot to fold back. So I'm just going to fold this one flap, because all the rest of them have been folded. Okay, see, just like that. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to actually do the squares and the rectangles. Now, and there we are. There we have it. So all we need to do now is we need to start sticking it together, and we'll make a little gratitude box of now. You can see mine is narrow and stuff, but that's because I'm going to roll up any of my little things that I'm grateful for, okay? Kind of stick it to the edge of my table so I have it there. Now, it doesn't matter that I'm using tape for now because I'm going to be covering the whole thing anyway, so it doesn't matter what it looks like just right now. It's going to look rough, and I'm happy with that. So, let's see, so I need to be able to open my little gratitude box. So one of these sides is going to be my little flap in. So I'm going to cut off the extra flaps. I'm going to leave one because that's what I'm going to use to close it. Now, and then so all I actually have to do, so I can leave this one open because I don't need to do anything with that. And what I'm going to do is I am going to have a look there. I've closed one side, closed one side there like that. Voila. And then I need to close another side. So I'm going to take another strip of tape. But remember, we're going to cover over them anyway. There we have it. So that's our cuboid made, but we're not closing up our cuboid. We're leaving it as is. And I'm just going to cut off the flaps at the top here on the bottom so that mine will tuck in. Okay? So there we have it. Great. So now the next thing we need to do is we need to cover it, okay? So, but you can use any type of wrapping paper or anything like that you have, unless you have nice, or if you have nice coloured paper at home that you'd like to use, that's totally up to you. And then, but what I'm going to use is just a bit of gold wrapping paper. And now to do this, I am going to simply pretend as if I'm just totally wrapping it and I'm just going to glue it onto it, that's all, okay? So let's see, we'll go from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, great. And then we have space at either side. So here I go. Now, great, and I'm just going to start gluing. Nice and quick. And there we have it. I've a little flap done there as well. Okay, and then what you can do is you could get a little button and an elastic and tie it down to keep it closed, okay? So once we have all of this done, so we have our basic gratitude box made, you could use actually the net of a square, or if you wanted, or the net of a cube, I beg your pardon. But I use the net of a cuboid. So once we have all that done, it's time for us to select what we include in our boxes. You can use photos, pictures from magazines, or even actually draw your own pictures. If you like, you can even write little gratitudes on paper. The images or sentences will show or represent what we are grateful for. So here's what I'm going to put into mine. So let's see, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for my parents. I'm grateful that I've 2 loving, supporting parents. So I'm going to put them in there. I'm just going to roll them up in there. I have my lovely grandparents and my lovely granddad who passed away a year ago, but this photo is always something that I'm going to have. So I'll always be able to look back on it and remember him. My mamo, my dad's mum, who is wonderful and taking very good care of herself. Here she is blowing out candles on her birthday cake, and I'm so lucky to have my grandparents. I'm going to write some more maybe. Oh, I'm grateful for the people I work with in my school. Now, what else am I grateful for? So I'm going to write some gratitudes. So here we go. I am grateful that... So here's a gratitude I'm going to put into my box. It says, I am grateful that everyone is doing their best in this hard time. So I'm going to cut that out and put that in. What else am I grateful for? What else am I grateful for that I do have at this time? I am grateful that I live in such a beautiful country. So I said, I'm grateful that I live in such a beautiful country and that I am grateful that this time has taught me what is important. Okay? So I'm going to take those 3 gratitudes and I'm going to put them in my box along with all the wonderful people I have in my life. So I'm going to pop them in there, roll them up. Okay? So well done, you all did a fantastic job. We have learned how to make a gratitude box and how to select things which make us feel the most lucky and grateful for all that we have. How are you going to use your gratitude box? Well, if I'm ever feeling down or having a bad day or a hard day, because we all do, I'm going to open up my gratitude box somewhere quiet and I'm going to look through it until I feel a little bit better. Let's keep our focus on what we have rather than what we don't. We are so lucky to be here. Take care of yourselves and others. Slán!